Welcome. My name is Joshua, and this is somewhat unanticipated. I wasn't planning on making another video of this nature so soon, but the timing of it is somewhat critical. I want to say thank you to John C. Gentleman left a comment on the previous video, which was thoroughly detailed concerning John MacArthur and his string of Hillsong affiliated friends, the silence of Justin Peters and Todd Friel. If you haven't seen that, I would urge you to watch it. It's about 2.5 hours, chocked full of evidence, a whole lot of detailed compromise using their own standards, thoroughly inexcusable. They rightly critique Bethel and Hillsong, and yet are happy to join hands with those who say Hillsong and Bethel are good. Okay, so please watch that if you haven't. Nevertheless, a man named John C. left a comment under that video referencing the Masters University and Matt Redman being listed as leading worship or singing there. And I thought I was a little confused by it. I thought surely that's wrong. And thankfully, I was able to get a screenshot of this before it was deleted, and I don't think they deleted it for cover-up reasons because there's still an article there. But as websites do, they have a cycle of the most relevant, 4 or 5 things that it cycles through. Well, this was February 21st, so just a couple of short weeks ago. Matt Redman was invited to the Masters Seminary. Masters University. There's a critical distinction here too. I don't know that it's critical, but it should be mentioned that there is a difference between the Master's Seminary and the Master's University, but it's a negligible difference. They both come from the same lineage. Both of them are, I think, chancellored over by John MacArthur. Both of them effectively have their name and reputation as a direct result of John MacArthur. And they are both inextricably tied to the ministry of John MacArthur. Here's the Grace Community Church website, John MacArthur's Church. There are only 4 affiliated ministries, as you can see: Master's Seminary, Master's Academy International, Grace to You, their radio program, and the Master's University. John MacArthur is the longest-serving president of the Master's University. And here's their website. He is Chancellor Emeritus, Dr. John MacArthur. So he stepped down as president, I believe, in June of last year. And nevertheless, here it says June of 2019. It says, though, as Chancellor Emeritus, Dr. MacArthur will provide spiritual guidance and mentorship with the campus community, foster trust with stakeholders, and engage with students. Through chapel and campus events, he will continue to be a trusted resource for students, parents, and alumni. He's very much still involved in the Masters University. He still speaks at their chapel services. And as it says here on their website, he is still a spiritual guide and mentor. And this is, again, inextricably tied to Grace Community Church itself. This is one of only 4 affiliated ministries that they promote, and that's key here. This is indeed listed as a ministry, right? Masters University is not just some random school, but this is an affiliated ministry of Grace to You. The whole purpose of the school, the whole trajectory, as stated, is to make disciples for Christ. So this isn't just random schooling that he happens to be somewhat tied to. No, it's a Christian education is the theme, and it's a listed ministry. Anyway, they have chapel services. Okay. John MacArthur. What do you say? Now, you won't find this picture there anymore, but you will find this article there. Matt Redman leads music in chapel. Let's just go ahead and read it. This was 3 days after he was there, I believe. 3 times a week, each week, the Masters University students, faculty, and staff gather for a time of worship, and teaching in chapel. We were blessed this past Friday morning with special guest Matt Redman, the author of 10,000 Reasons, Blessed Be Your Name, and other modern hymns, led music and shared a short message about the nature of worship. he shared a message. Matt Redman was teaching them in their chapel. He reminded our campus community that our God, they were worshiping together, our God is majestic and holy beyond anything we can imagine. Matt Redman's burden is to recapture the essential element of wonder in our modern worship and encourage us to fight against both external culture and inner struggles and strive for godly awe. He closed our time by leading us in his favorite hymn, How Great Thou Art, a song that begins, O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made. It was a fitting capstone to the morning. Our chapel is live streamed, etc., etc. Okay, a glowing review from the people involved at the Masters University. And now, just so you know, here's what the schedule looks like, and you can see Matt Redman down here. This was February 21st that he was there. The 2 days preceding, Austin Duncan was there. Well, who is Austin Duncan? I'm glad you asked. Austin Duncan is one of the staff pastors at John MacArthur's church. Yes, John MacArthur's church is very much involved, still very active in teaching at the Masters University. But that shouldn't be a surprise. There's John MacArthur himself will be there March 27th coming up. You got guys like Ray Comfort that'll be there April 8th. John MacArthur, again, will be there, looks like April 29th, I believe. So John MacArthur, and here he was there on the 27th and the 29th, John MacArthur. As you can see, he teaches there frequently. His other staff pastors teach there. He is the Chancellor Emeritus of the Masters University. Well, great, Josh. What does all this have to do with Matt Redman? I like his songs. Blessed Be Your Name is a great song. 10,000 Reasons. Don't you like modern hymns? Please, if you haven't seen the video I did on the corruption of the Christian music industry, Matt Redman is featured in there. He's also featured in the previous video. But we're going to just focus on Matt Redman in particular to show you that Matt Redman is, or may as well be, synonymous with Hillsong or Bethel or what have you. Because despite Matt Redman not being officially a member of Hillsong United, the collective, or not being a member of Bethel Music, he believes the same things they do. He tours with them regularly. And again, I urge you, if you did not see the previous video, it's called Bethel Bridge Builders and Hillsong Hypocrisy. The statements made by John MacArthur's affiliates, specifically Justin Peters and Todd Friel, were scathing on a high level. That some of the adjectives used to describe Bethel and Hillsong would include they're false churches, they're demonic, they're leading people down the primrose path to hell. What they do is worse than murdering babies, right? Some of the strongest language you could imagine. And Matt Redman believes all the same things they do. And he is quite ecumenical. Matt Redman, despite not being officially a teacher, would absolutely be listed in the class of false teachers. Sometimes he does teach, or we could technically say he's a false worship leader. However you'd like to put it, he is a representative publicly. He publicly represents himself as a leader of God's people, right, of the Christian community in some sense. He leads people to worship God in spirit without truth. Jesus was not ambiguous when he told a woman in John chapter 4, God is seeking those to worship him in spirit and in truth. Both must be there, or it's not the worship God commends. Matt Redman is a false teacher. Matt Redman is a danger to anyone who takes their Bible seriously. Anyone who is pursuing hard after Jesus, this man is as bad or worse than Hillsong, Bethel, Jesus culture, you name it. Well, Josh, I'd like to see some evidence. I bet you would. But first, let's hear what he had to say during his 20-minute teaching spiel at the Masters University. Okay, we'll get a little context.
It's loving being here because the last time I came here, the only time I came here before with Dr. Plew here, was it was nighttime. And
So he's been there
I didn't
before.
really see your campus at all.
Listen.
I just saw the inside of a studio, which is an amazing studio. So it's wonderful this morning getting here and seeing this wonderful campus here. It's a wonderful campus here. It's just fantastic. And I don't usually get to speak a whole lot. You guys are very trusting, by the way. Didn't even ask me what I was going to speak on. I could have spoken about the Queen of England, for 20 minutes, and the, the blessings of having a monarchy, that kind of thing.
It's funny, but it's not. Notice what he said. You guys are very trusting, by the way. You didn't even ask me what I was going to speak on, and that about sums up the whole John MacArthur camp at this point. They don't care. Despite being filled with so-called discerners, right? People that make it their job to criticize the lowest of the low-hanging fruit in the hyper-charismatic insanity movement, you got guys like Justin Peters and Todd Friel and Phil Johnson that cry foul when they see Kenneth Copeland doing what he's done for 50 years, and they're shocked about it. But when there's a fire in their own living room, they look the other way. It's cowardice. It's gross hypocrisy. It's the blind leading the blind. Look what he said. You guys didn't even ask me what I was going to speak about. I'm not surprised. Matt Redman is not new to the Christian music scene. Matt Redman is almost in his 50s, I think, at this point. Right? He's been making music for the better part of the last 2.5 decades, at least. So there's no excuse to not know who Matt Redman is. I mean, gosh, you invited him to your chapel service. You must have some idea who he is. No, I'm sure you knew he won a Grammy. I'm sure you knew he authored Blessed Be Your Name. I'm sure you knew his name was writ large in the world of contemporary Christian music, and therefore he would be a draw to your chapel university or your chapel students at the university. Did you even care to see what his theology is? Because even by their Reformed standards, this man is strange fire. The great irony is John MacArthur held a conference, I think it was 2014, the Strange Fire Conference, critiquing the charismatic movement basically in general. This guy embraces insanity even by Pentecostal standards. John MacArthur and his team are now sanctioning the very strange fire that they sought to put out at their conference. They just held one in October, a conference called the Truth Matters Conference, kind of revisiting the theme of the fallout from the Strange Fire event and really talking about how truth matters. And it was, you might as well have called it, cessationists are us. That was kind of the theme. This guy, well, let's just get into it. Let's get into it. Don't take my word for it. Let's see. Where was Matt Redman? July 31st, 2020. That was January 31st, 2020, not too long ago. He was, as you can see, at Hillsong, Phoenix. Matt Redman, A Night of Worship, album release and celebration, Hillsong, Phoenix. Now, again, please watch the previous video. Well, you'll see Justin Peters and Todd Friel, both very close John MacArthur affiliates. They do conferences with him routinely. Saying that Bethel, Hillsong, Elevation Worship, and the like are leading people to hell. And guess what? They're right. Well, that's where Matt Redman was on January 31st, just a couple of weeks before he was at the chapel service. They didn't know he was at Hillsong just a couple of weeks prior? Did they care? Apparently not. They didn't even ask him what he was going to speak about. That's how trusting, which is a nice way to whitewash negligence. That's what you should call Masters University. Negligent, derelict. Pick an adjective along those lines. If you're thinking about enrolling your child at Masters University, you should think again. If you're going, you should ungo, okay, to use a phrase. Stop giving your money to negligent bridge builders like the Masters University. But wait. What else was happening January 31st at Phoenix Hillsong, right? This is the Alpha Conference. And that's a Catholic priest, by the way. The Alpha Conference 2020 event, I think it was like a 20-year anniversary of the Alpha course. So they did this Alpha Conference at Hillsong January 31st. It's not an accident. January 31st at Hillsong Phoenix, Matt Redman was there. Well, he was also at the Alpha Conference, which included guys like Francis Chan, heavily immersed in New Apostolic Reformation circles and is embracing Catholicism and you name it. But there's Matt Redman, as you could see down here. He was on that lineup. That's why he was there at Hillsong Phoenix. Here he is. Hillsong Church posted this, 2014. Only 3 months until Hillsong Conference. We can't wait to have Matt Redman with us. He is a longtime friend of Hillsong. Longtime friend of Hillsong. This is, let's see, Hillsong, Bethel, and Redman to share the stage. It's a trifecta of epic worship proportions at the Hillsong Conference in London. Hillsong, Bethel, Matt Redman. Why are they all together? Because they all believe and teach the same thing. So if Bethel is leading people to hell, so is Matt Redman. Matt Redman is as bad as Bethel and or Hillsong. There are no two ways about it. Matt Redman, Hillsong Guilford. Launch celebration this Saturday, 21st of February with Matt Redman. Right? I don't think that was this year of 2020. I'm not sure what year this was, but within the last couple of years. He's a routine. He pops in at like a gopher at every Hillsong hole he can find. There he is with Brian Houston, the leader and founder of Hillsong Church. Well, his father technically was a founder, but he's the face of Hillsong as we know it, Brian Houston. A man who wrote a book called You Need More Money, right? A man who says Christians and Muslims worship the same God. A man who's been teaching Word of Faith doctrines for the last 2.5 decades, 3 decades. He and Matt Redman have been friends for a long time. That's why they're on Let's Talk Together with Brian Houston. Only on TBN. Matt Redman, have you ever heard of the One Thing Conference? Well, this is a conference that was, and no longer is, but it was part of the IHOP in Kansas City, the IHOP Church, the International House of Prayer, led by Mike Bickle. Mike Bickle is a longtime friend of Bill Johnson. You could think of IHOP as Bethel 2.0. It's the same thing, basically, or Bethel 1.0. I don't know how you want to look at it. I don't know which one's worse or more deficient at this point. But Mike Bickle is a longtime NAR affiliate, heavily into signs and wonders, heavily ecumenical. I believe they had a Catholic track at this very conference, the 2013 conference, at which Francis Chan was featured. Banning Leibischer and Jesus Culture down here are both out of Bethel Church. You can see the clear connection already. And there's Matt Redman leading worship at the One Thing Conference. Matt Redman, a longtime friend of Bethel and Hillsong. Let's continue. There he is, 2014, the new Jesus Culture record. I love what they bring to the mix, and I love Kim Walker-Smith's version of 10,000 Reasons. Kim Walker-Smith, the front woman of Jesus Culture, that came out of a Bethel Church in Redding, California, under Bill Johnson. Right, the leader of Jesus Culture now is Banning Leibischer, whose mentor was and is Bill Johnson. Remember that church that Justin Peters says is leading people to hell? Matt Redman loves them. They're his friends. He believes what they believe, so he leads them where they lead them. Savvy? Let's continue. Matt Redman, love this chat with my friend Banning. Who's this, right? You ask? Banning? Let's see here. Banning Leibischer. That's right. The leader of Jesus Culture, the protege of Bill Johnson. From Jesus Culture includes thoughts on the new album, creativity, leadership, favor. Right? When you hear that term favor, you'll hear that from people like Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer quite frequently. Plus some really bad jokes. This whole thing is a really bad joke. Just absolutely insane. But as you can see, he's a heavy promoter of Jesus Culture and all things Bethel. Who else is Matt Redman heavily in favor of? Pun intended. Excited to worship alongside Joyce Meyer Ministries a couple times in the next few weeks in St. Louis and Atlanta. That was in 2013. Of course Matt Redman's excited to worship along Joyce Meyer. You know why? Because truth doesn't matter to him. Listen.
Hey everyone, this is Matt Redman. I'm actually backstage at Love Life Conference 2013. It has been a beautiful time. Absolutely amazing. Joyce's teaching has been stunning as always. Then Andy Stanley also.
Joyce's teaching has been stunning as always. Now, I will point out here that this is on Joyce Meyer's own YouTube channel. This is Joyce Meyer Ministries' official material. Joyce's teachings have been stunning as always. That's right. Matt Redman loves Joyce Meyer. Why? Well, because whatever doesn't have the truth in it, that's what Matt Redman likes. But he sings so good. Spirit and truth. You don't get to pick which one you want. Spirit and truth. That was 2013. Here's the 2016 Joyce Meyer's conference. Joyce Meyer conference. Matt Redman and Christi leading worship with Joyce Meyer again. 2013, 2016. Here's Joyce Meyer's own website from 2019. Free conference with the New York Times best-selling author Joyce Meyer with live music from who? That's right, Matt Redman. 2013, 2016, 2019. What about 2020? Yep, you guessed it, Matt Redman's back again. Joyce Meyer Conference Tour 2020 with worship with Matt Redman. Matt Redman is all but the official worship leader of the Joyce Meyer conferences. Now, she will have people like Chris Tomlin and sometimes Phil Wickham and things like this, but as you can see, Matt Redman's been there quite a few times. He's kind of the go-to to lead worship for Joyce Meyer, and boy, does he think her teaching is stunning. Isn't that something? Let's continue. Back in 2015, this article says, Matt Redman to headline Catholic youth event. Right? This youth event in the Wembley Arena in London called Flame 2, organized by the Catholic Youth Ministry. Youth Ministry Federation is anticipated to attract up to 10,000 young Roman Catholics. Huh. Well, what's that all about? Well, this is what the event looked like here, called Flame 2, right? This large event. Says down here, music will be provided by, Music will be provided by double Grammy Award-winning Matt Redman and his band. That's who's leading worship at the Flame 2 back in 2015. Did Matt Redman have anything to say about this? I'm sure he did. Next Saturday, I'll be at Wembley Arena for Flame 2, the largest ever Catholic youth event in the UK. All of the speakers were cardinals and fathers and what have you. Little antichrists, and Matt Redman just couldn't wait to lead them all in false worship. He's a false teacher. He's a false worship leader. Call him what you want. Just make sure you qualify it with the word false. Okay? Matt Redman. This is just as a glimpse of his rock and worship over at the Flame 2 conference with all these Catholic youth, right? So it's a parody of worship anyway, whatever this is, right? This is just a worldly concert with the name worship on it. That's what you get from a double Grammy Award winner. But that's a little clip of Matt Redman leading Catholics in worship together. Here's an article from back in 2007, okay? March 28th, 2007. That's 13 years ago. That's a long time ago. This isn't new. This is how unnew Matt Redman's problems are, okay? This is an interview he did. This used to be kind of a typical format in the early days of the internet where, you know, the article is written out. This wasn't recorded, so it's just written out for us. And the interviewer says, his name's Tony, so how do you feel about services that are driven by the prayer book? He's talking about the Common Book of Prayer, the Book of Common Prayer. Matt Redman comes from an Anglican tradition. But that tradition is whatever. You know, he picks a different flavor every week. So here he says, a year or two ago, I remember I was at Westminster Abbey at evensong one night. It was when N.T. Wright was still there. The next day, I was with a very full-on, what you might call a Pentecostal expression of the church. I just thought, man, I love it that I can straddle both of these and get the privilege to do both. I find it easy to do worship in both. I know it sounds a cheesy thing, but look at something like Soul Survivor. You've got a massive cross-section of the church there. You've got Catholics there, you've got high church Anglicans, you've got house churches, Baptists, Methodists, and no one even cares. That basically sums up the entire ministry of Matt Redman and, ironically, the Masters University. No one cares. Nobody cares. He goes, you guys are very trusting. Nobody even asked me what I was going to speak about. Why would they? They don't care. That's probably why they picked you. Kindred spirits. Neither one of you care about truth. They're all there centering around God. It's great. It's a God of their own imagination. It's not great. So, as you can see, Matt Redman doesn't care. He has no problems with Catholics. He loves it. He loves that nobody cares. He loves that truth doesn't matter and they can all just say the name God, and that's good enough for them. All right, speaking of Catholics, this fellow, Nicky Gumbel, who's an Anglican vicar, greeting the Pope here with a big cheesy smile on his face because he also doesn't care about truth. Right? He cares about recognition and flattery and so forth. Nicky Gumbel, a friend of the Pope, a friend of the Catholic Church. He loves Catholicism. He really does. Who is Nicky Gumbel? For those that don't know, Nicky Gumbel is the pioneer of the Alpha and vicar of Holy Trinity Brompton in London, one of the largest churches of Church of England churches in the UK. He's the author of many books and married to Pippa. Okay, that's Nicky Gumbel. He is the pioneer of Alpha. So what is Alpha, you ask? What is the Alpha course? Okay. Well, here's just one brief. This is from their website, Alpha in a Catholic Context. All right, the whole premise of this Alpha course is evangelism light. Basically, they want to create an environment where people can come in and learn things about God and the universe in a non-threatening environment. All of those are just code words for no doctrine, no truth, absolutely superficial, and we're going to basically give you a presentation of general theism. You go ahead and fill in the doctrinal blank. If you want to be a Catholic, great. We love Catholics. We love that expression of the faith, right? That's what the Alpha course is. It's ecumenical. It's geared toward uniting every church, and absolutely joining in with the Catholic Church. And so this is a whole video of Catholics talking about just how great Alpha is. Let's see if we can maybe get a little clip here.
Alpha is really changing the image that people have about the Catholic Church.
Alpha's changing the image.
It opened my eyes that there was more to being a Christian than just turning up at church on a weekly basis.
It gives you the ability to just explore the Christian faith.
I rejoice and I thank God for arising in the church.
Now this man right here,
Of course, the fruit.
I forget his name now. I think it's like Father
I
Raniero or
rejoice
something.
and I thank God
Hold
for
on.
arising.
This man right here is the only man in the Catholic Church that is allowed to teach the Pope. He's basically I forget his official title, but he's the chaplain to the Pope, basically. When the Pope sits and listens to a teaching, this is the only man allowed by the Catholic Church to give teachings that the Pope can listen to. That's his job. His job is to teach and counsel the Pope. These are the people that praise the Alpha course because, as they say, Alpha is changing the way people look at the Catholic Church. Yes, it's a work piece of Satan. So it's there to deceive people into thinking that there's something good and redeemable about the Catholic Church, which there isn't. That's what the Alpha course is in a nutshell. The point is, it is thoroughly ecumenical and therefore demonic at root. We're not using these terms lightly. This is the only way to classify this. Okay, here's another article, right, from the Alpha Course website. Is worship the secret to unity? Well, it just might be. Matt Maher is an award-winning contemporary Christian music artist. You've sung his songs at church. Bet you have. He wrote that song, Your Grace is Enough. But since he's a practicing Catholic, that's not true for him. God's grace is not enough. He's also a practicing Roman Catholic and a thoughtful cultural leader. We jumped on a call together in preparation for the Alpha Conference and began discussing the work of unity. Unity. This is a false unity. This is not the unity spoken of in the Bible. This is not Ephesians 4 unity. This is a fake unity.
Pope Francis says, like, God will sort that out in his time. If you put a bunch of theologians on an island, they would come to unity the day after Jesus returned. Because they're always going to find things to like, well, what about this and what about this? And I think meanwhile, us in the West, like, we have to live with each other.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get to choose your family.
You could call that gobbledygook. That's what you could call that. You don't get to choose your family. Put a bunch of clever anecdotes and fun little schemes and jokes. It's rubbish. This man is lost. He's not a Christian. He never has been a Christian. He's lost. But he loves the Alpha course. He loves Nicky Gumbel and what he's doing with Alpha. Why? Because it's all about unity. It's all about uniting people under the false banner of worshiping God and leading them down the path to destruction. Well, Matt Maher, also a good friend of Matt Redman. Yeah, they make music together, him and Matt Redman. We don't need to play this. It's just them singing a song together. But they've written music together. They're good friends. Matt Maher, the Catholic, and Matt Redman, blessed be your name, they're friends. Of course they're friends. Who else is Matt Redman friends with? Such a blessing with my wife, Beth, this week to be around so many friends at the wonderful HTB Church in London. Yep, there he is with Nicky Gumbel. Remember this Nicky Gumbel? Nicky Gumbel, the Pope lover, that's building bridges with Catholics and uniting them. That's one of Matt Redman's good friends. He and Nicky Gumbel, they're great friends. And this is nothing new for Matt Redman. Listen to what he says, though. Again, this is at the Holy Trinity Brompton Leadership Conference here with Nicky Gumbel. I want you to keep in mind that John MacArthur held a massive conference called the Strange Fire Conference we mentioned just a bit ago, 2014. The whole theme of it was anything that's not cessationism is crazy and unbiblical. Again, I say, listen to who they have come and lead worship at their chapel services at the Masters University that even by Pentecostal standards would be disturbing. Listen.
The work of the Spirit has always been so key in your lives and in your ministries. Just say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, right at the beginning, my dad dying when I was 7. Well, that was in the month of May. And the month of June, a team came from the US, from the Vineyard churches. A guy called John Wimber came to England for the first time, came to my church, and my mum took me along to this midweek meeting, and I'd never really seen the power of the Holy Spirit at work before, and I saw people getting very affected by the power of God. I saw someone who I'd known who was in a wheelchair, all my life I'd seen them in a wheelchair, get up and walk around the church. And it was just like an eye-opener, I guess. And so I love to embrace that, but I also think that, we're going to pray in a moment, that God would increase the measure of what His Holy Spirit is doing in our lives. So we want to grab that as boldly as we can, but at the same...
We'll just stop there. For those that don't know who John Wimber is or the Vineyard Movement, John Wimber is the man that inspired Bill Johnson to be all the heretic that he is today. It was at a Vineyard event hosted by John Wimber that Bill Johnson was sitting as a young aspiring heretic watching this so-called power of the Spirit, right? It was a signs and wonders event. Bill Johnson saw what was happening, and that's what inspired him and propelled him to start what has become Bethel Church, to start what has become Jesus Culture and all of their offshoots. Well, this is the same thing that inspired Matt Redman, John Wimber, and the Vineyard Movement. And notice what he says, that, just casually talking about people in wheelchairs getting up and walking around. What I find just hard to make sense of here is that, for example, Justin Peters of Justin Peters Ministry has basically made it his life goal to out and expose what he would call charlatans, right? People that don't know what they're talking about. A bunch of ne'er-do-wells who pretend to heal people. They're snake oil salesmen. The Todd Bentleys and so forth. People that claim to be doing healings in God's name when there's really no evidence of it. Yet Matt Redman happily concedes, just quite casually, yeah, I've seen people get up out of the people that were in wheelchairs all their lives, they just get up and walk around. Will you hear Justin Peters utter a word of critique against John MacArthur or the Masters University for this? Let's wait and see. I bet you won't. I bet you won't. What are they going to say? Well, John MacArthur's not responsible. He's only the Chancellor Emeritus now. He's not the president. Let's not pretend he doesn't have massive sway over that university. Is John MacArthur going to issue an official statement of rebuke to whoever allows Matt Redman to come lead worship at the chapel? I bet you won't hear it. I bet you'll see a team of PR people trying to sweep this under the rug. I bet you won't hear Todd Friel of Wretched Radio say, wow, this is a travesty. John MacArthur's own school is now burning the very strange fire that they sought to warn people about. Isn't that something? Matt Redman. Oh yeah, by the way, friends with Stephen Furtick too. Stephen Furtick of Elevation Church, who Justin Peters says is leading people to hell. That's right. There he is. Pastor Stephen Furtick telling everyone, I could never grow a beard like his. Great times at Elevation Church today. Yes, Matt Redman leads worship at Elevation Church. And I'm using the word worship here in quotes. Matt Redman, a friend, an ally, a comrade of Hillsong, of Bethel, of the Alpha Course, of Nicky Gumbel, of Holy Trinity Brompton, of Stephen Furtick, of Catholics, leading worship, lauding Catholicism as far back as 2007, and also teaching and leading worship at the chapel service at John MacArthur's Masters University. Yeah, while he's not the president, he's the longest-serving president. And this school is still one of only 4 affiliated ministries of Grace Community Church. This is indeed a ministry of Grace Community Church. No matter how you slice it, John MacArthur has a responsibility here. He is the Chancellor Emeritus. Is he going to issue a statement? Is he going to remove Masters University from the affiliated ministries on Grace Community Church? He can't. They're effectively part of Grace Community Church for all intents and purposes. Chancellor Emeritus Dr. John MacArthur, the spiritual guide, the spiritual leader of spiritual guidance. There you go. Spiritual guidance and mentorship. That's what he provides. Huh. Was John MacArthur's spiritual guidance what got Matt Redman to lead worship at the chapel service? Was it his mentorship? Is he going to have a word of rebuke for them burning strange fire in the Master's Seminary? Matt Redman leads music in the chapel. I suspect he won't. You know why? Because it would create a chain reaction that would be very problematic for John MacArthur, because other of John MacArthur's friends also heartily embrace Matt Redman. Matt Redman, who's as bad as Hillsong, Bethel, Elevation, etc. The false teacher, the false worship leader, Matt Redman. Who else is friends with him? Well, that would include John MacArthur's friends, Keith and Kristen Getty. He goes to their Sing conferences. He invited them to the Shepherd's Conference last year in 2019. And, oh, look, Sing with Keith and Kristen Getty and special guests. You got Johnny Erickson Tata, Matt Redman. They're all friends. I bet you thought Johnny Erickson Tata was a nice, sound woman, because after all, she has John MacArthur's stamp of approval. Yeah, well, she's also a friend of Matt Redman too, so let's not pretend like Johnny Erickson Tata's got some kind of discernment going on. She doesn't. Matt Redman doesn't care. He's glad that these Catholic churches he goes to don't care. Johnny Erickson Tata doesn't care. The Masters University doesn't care. Grace to You doesn't care. Wretched Radio doesn't care. Justin Peters Ministry doesn't care. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Matt Redman, worship leader for Joyce Meyer. Leading worship for Catholics, urging unity between Catholics, saying that he sees people get up healed. I mean, again, even by Pentecostal standards, the stuff that he embraces is insane. But you guys had a conference about strange fire, and now you're burning that very strange fire right in the chapel hall of the Master's University. Boy, isn't that a doozy. I don't think it needs to be much longer than this. As you can see, there's a massive problem sweeping the evangelical world. And time again, I've warned of this specific thing. This isn't new. This is just another layer. Right? You've had people like Todd Friel bending over backwards a year ago to defend John MacArthur going to a conference with Rick Warren. Well, he's not a heretic. He says the right stuff. And year by year, month by month, it's incremental until now you got Matt Redman leading worship at the Master's University. Well, John MacArthur's not the president anymore, so it's not his fault. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, that's clever. So what's he going to say about it? Is he going to pretend like this doesn't matter? Is he going to pretend like this isn't one of the affiliated ministries of his church? Is he going to pretend like he doesn't speak at the very same chapel service? Is he going to pretend like his pastors on staff aren't speaking at the very same chapel the same week as Matt Redman? No, the pretending's up. So what's the message here? Well, again, I'll say, if you're thinking about enrolling in the Master's University, don't enroll in the Master's University. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is a symptom of a greater problem, and the greater problem is summed up in Matt Redman's own statement from the stage of the Master's Chapel. You guys are very trusting, which is a code word for you guys don't care. Nobody even asked me what I was going to speak about. Why? Because they don't care. They'll pretend they care. As long as things have the appearance of good, but there's still sway in a name, they'll take it. John MacArthur's friends don't care. Keith and Kristen Getty, they don't care that they're worshiping with a false teacher, a false worship leader. The discernment guys around John MacArthur, they don't care. What are they going to say about this? Time will tell, but if you're enrolled in the Master's University, you should unenroll. You should vacate. And please, again, I urge you, watch the video previously uploaded. There's 2.5 hours of scathing evidence along these very same lines, but this was a new bit of information I was unaware of and thought it prudent to bring it to your attention in a timely fashion. So here it is. John MacArthur now having strange fire at his own Master's University. Will the Chancellor Emeritus of Master's University offer spiritual guidance, or is his mentorship and spiritual guidance approving of this heretic, false teacher, and a man who, according to the standards of Justin Peters and Wretched Radio, is very much leading people down the primrose path to hell? Time will tell. Until next time, God bless and Godspeed.